Hi everyone, and welcome to Merriam Pianos on YouTube. My name is Stu Harrison, and today we are continuing our exploration of piano VSTs. That is virtual studio technology, basically a whole lot of lingo that just means plugins for popular DAWs like Logic, Pro Tools, Ableton, etc., etc. The technology has come very far, very quickly. Processor speed is no longer an impediment. And for people producing sample banks, hard drive space is really not an impediment. It means now that you can sell multi-gigabyte sample files or sample libraries to customers, deliver it through downloads, and people have it in a matter of minutes. That just was not the case even 5 years ago, and definitely not 10 years ago. If you wanted, I remember buying CinePiano, and it was a box, and in that box contained lots of DVDs worth of material. I mean, you had, I don't know, a couple of hundred gigs worth of samples, and you felt like, you know, you had one of those like Encyclopedia Britannicas worth of DVDs. Anyway, we're way past that. The processing speed is better and the storage space is cheaper. Today we are going to be taking a look at a plugin called CinePiano, and this is from a company, Cine Studios. They produce other plugins that's kind of the naming convention, so Cinebrass, Cinestrings, CinePiano. The one that I have used the most other than this plugin is Cinestrings, and they record all of these instruments in a very specific space with a couple of studio engineers that they work with and like the kind of the sound of, or the character of how they get these instruments to sound. They recorded at the NGM soundstage that sort of has a bit of a distinctive sound, and so all of these different companies do have characters to their tone. And what I found really interesting about this plugin is that the CinePiano kind of has the same vibe as the Cinestrings, and maybe that shouldn't be surprising because it was recorded in the same space and probably used a lot of the same engineers, but I think it's kind of cool. There's almost a brand consistency to that, and so I really liked Cinestrings for a specific reason. I spent an enormous amount of time researching every single string library and string plugin I possibly could before I took the plunge on that one. That was not the cheapest plugin, but we did it. And on the piano side, I was really just intrigued because I was so impressed by what they'd done on the other plugins. So on the CinePiano, there are kind of four, I guess, sample banks that they feed into their Cine engine. And this resides in Kontakt players, so you do need like a bit of a vehicle to drive this plugin, but it does work with the free version, so you aren't stuck paying for like a second thing you didn't know you'd had to pay for. So you can use the free Kontakt player, works with CinePiano, and this is what it looks like. So the four modules, or the four elements we're going to be taking a look at, is CinePiano, Classical, Cinematic, and Rock Studio Grand. Now, the CinePiano is the core one, and this is the one where they've obviously spent the most time sampling the instrument. Because what they do for all of this is they have multiple microphones, as a lot of companies who do sampling does that. So they've got a kind of a full, which is everything. Then you've got close miking, you've got room mic, and then you've got surround sound mic, which is like really far away from the instrument. I mean, we're talking about 50, 75 feet away. They've got microphones up in the ceiling rafters, microphones on the back wall, really to capture the authentic ambience. And I like how they've done this, and this is one of the things that I think gives this a unique character that an instrument or a plugin like Pianoteq doesn't capture as well, which is the instrument inside a space. It's like a duet. The space is almost another instrument that is working with the core sound to produce really the final acoustic effect. And while Pianoteq has done a phenomenal job of modeling the piano, the Reverb Engine itself is a fairly generic reverb engine. I don't think it's anything particularly special. In fact, when I use Pianoteq 7, I generally am using with a completely different reverb engine. I'll either be using something like H Reverb or one of those CLA Epic plugins from Waves or something like that that just gives me a bit of more of an interesting reverberant texture than what it happens out there. And it's because while you can model the piano, how do you model all the weird little nooks and crannies of a specific room? You kind of can't. Well, you could, but I mean it would be almost unproductive. And so if you like the sound of a room, what I love about whatever, in this case CinePiano, is that they have captured the room as much as they've captured the instrument. And if you like those two things in combination, man oh man, it is such an immersive feeling. So off the bat, I guess I'm definitely predisposed to say I like the plugin for the character, the musicality of it. There's some parts about the interface that I really don't like, and I also think the interface is a little bit lacking compared to how immersive some of the other interfaces are in some of the other plugins. I mean, it's literally just two screens and the settings are fairly basic, but we're gonna check this out and see what you think. So let's dive in first to CinePiano. So that is their main module. It's the first module, and you can see that I've got it loaded up here in Kontakt. All of these presets down the side here are mixing presets. So this is actually has nothing to do whatsoever with manipulating the piano sample per se. This is entirely just mixing the recorded results of the original sample with no other manipulation. It's kind of an interesting approach because not too many other plugins do that. So we've got Tim's mix. Don't know who Tim is, but we all like Tim. And here's how it sounds. Nice. Dry and close. Roomy. Yeah, that's a sound. orchestral left, is that what that says? Interesting. Ah. I don't know if it's my brain looking for kind of cinematic textures, or it's because I'm so used to hearing these sounds associated with movie scenes, but man, this puts your ear into place. Oh, custom, of course, that's going to be off. Cool. Okay, so let's go with sure, that default, and now let's take a look at the settings that we have access to. So it's a little on the light side, but there are still some useful stuff. One of the things I'd want to play around with, the velocity curve. I'm hearing kind of some weird sample stepping going on. Kind of like jumps up to that top sample a little bit quickly, so you know, I'd want to interesting. And then we've got soundboard liveliness, dynamic range. So essentially they're trying to apply some extra compression, multi-brand compression, or just some compression, and calling it a few different things that are applying these things to the core sample. And then character, intimate. Which looks like it's kind of just manipulating a few different settings. So this character isn't its own effect. It's really just changing, as you can see, the dynamic range, the velocity curve, and whether it's enabling this extra triple fortissimo layer. That's interesting. So that is CinePiano, that's the core one. So let's hop over now to the next sample set, which is just simply classical. Same settings, and they have only recorded this with one set of microphones. Okay, let's pop over to Cinematic. good for over dialogue that goes over top of that. I mean, there's just no frequencies that are going to compete with a nice crisp voiceover. So that's cinematic. And then finally, Rock Studio Grand. Yeah, that sound. So that's all four. And then of course the same settings. Soundboard, liveliness, natural. So not a huge amount of variety there. And I feel like the cinematic is kind of already captured just with the first one, with some of these different mixing settings. So it's a different kind of a plugin for sure. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. Really interesting. It's definitely not going to be the most versatile plugin, but there's something so magical, in my opinion, about how they've captured the piano in the room. So many of today's plugins are all about manipulating the core sound and having really multi-algorithmic approaches to layer upon layer upon layer of different sounds, and how to be able to manipulate those with lots of settings. This is a very bare bones, when you think about it, a very bare bones plugin, but it is a beautiful set of recordings of the piano. So if you like the character of the piano, and it sounds like it's a D, to my ear anyway, sounds like it's a New York D, and you really want the kind of some of the most authentic reverb that you possibly could, because it's not simulated reverb. This is real reverb, it's recorded reverb, and I don't know that too many of the plugins out there give you this level of option for true reverb. So they have not focused on, crazy close mic placement. If you're going to have a highly exposed piano, this probably isn't the plugin for you. But if you're thinking about having a piano that's highly moody, the other thing where I could see myself using this plugin a lot would be for writing, because I don't know, it's hard to put your finger on, but there's something so specific about hearing a piano in a real room, like a nice big room, and it puts you into a very specific creative place. I could see myself using this almost exclusively for writing and being thrilled by it, because you could sit down and it just transports you into physically a different place. Your ear picks up on the subtleties of simulated reverb versus something that's actually been recorded in a real room. So there you go, CinePiano. Hope you've enjoyed this exploration of the plugin. My name is Stu Harrison. This has been Merriam Pianos on YouTube. We normally are covering acoustic pianos, we're covering digital pianos, we're comparing them back and forth, but we are getting into VSTs right now as well. So we hope that for those of you who regularly watch us, you've kind of enjoyed a bit of a steer into a slightly different lane. And if for people who are first-time viewers, well, we certainly hope that you will come back and join us for videos in the future on all sorts of things, but always something to do with pianos. We'll see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching.